With their epic display of valor, the Ukrainian armed forces demonstrated to the entire world that they could compete with the Russian army. The largest defense war in Eastern Europe was fought by the Ukrainian armed forces, who are now teaching the Russian army how to go on the offensive. Thanks to their valiant efforts, Ukraine is getting closer to achieving freedom. However, following Vladimir Putin's mobilization declaration, the Russian Federation is headed for complete ethnic upheaval, insurrection, and unrest. Welcome back to War News Today. Watch the video to find out why more than 4 million Russians are preparing to rise up against Putin. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and also if you like this video then please give it a thumbs up. Turn on the bell icon to receive notifications about upcoming videos, and with that, let's start our video. Anti-war rallies and demonstrations spread throughout Russia after the Russian invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022. Aside from the protests, there have also been a number of petitions and open letters sent against the war, as well as declarations against it by a number of well-known cultural and political leaders. The Russian government responded to the protests by repressing them harshly. Between February 24th and March 13th, at least 14,906 people were detained, according to the OVD info. Human rights organizations and journalists have raised concerns about police brutality during arrests, and OVD info has documented numerous instances of protesters being tortured whilst in custody. The government has also taken other steps to repress other types of anti-war protest, including enacting sweeping censorship laws. Retaliation has been directed towards other people who signed anti-war petitions. Putin, who attempted to seize Ukraine in February and connect the Donbas region to himself, is currently embroiled in a conflict with various ethnic origin states affiliated with the Russian Federation. Following Putin's announcement on September 21st that Russia's military reserves would be partially mobilized, more than 2,000 people were detained during large-scale street protests. The agenda was shaken by the potential for the Russian Federation to fall apart due to internal coup by ethnic minorities, autonomous republics, and the opening of 3 new fronts for conflict with the Russian Federation. The Russian people were on the verge of a large-scale uprising and violent riots when Vladimir Putin announced his mobilization in late September. In an effort to put out these flames, this flame would spread to all of Russia's major cities, including Moscow, although it manifested itself most strongly in the independent republics. There was fresh outrage in Russia over the prospect of a new Kremlin mobilization decision. Vladimir Putin also used a variety of political tricks during this process to thwart the Ukrainian army's predictable advances. However, none of Putin's political hypocrisy attempts have been successful thus far. The Russian leader wants to be involved in the decision to mobilize the nation and trusts his judgment in making it. Additionally, Russian minority ethnic groups that disagreed with Putin's brash choice raised the rebel banner and opened up new fronts for Russia, particularly among the autonomous republics that would launch a military campaign against the Russian Federation and the Chechens, Dagestanis, and Bursitis. As you may recall, the initial spark of the events was the fact that the Chechens sent to the Ukraine crossed its borders and engaged the Russian army. In a video addressed to the Caucasian, Siberian, and other indigenous people of Russia, President Zelenskyy of Ukraine addressed the citizens gathered by the Russians for the minority republics. In a black hoodie bearing the slogan, "I am Ukrainian," the Ukrainian commander assured prospective warriors that they did not have to perish in Ukraine. Zelenskyy remained in the front of a plaque honoring Imam Shamil, a 19th century cleric who organized the caucus at Cave Square to oppose Imperial Russia. With its symbolic meanings, Zelenskyy stoked the fire that had been waiting to burn in the hearts of the autonomous republics. He had made a remark about various ethnic groups in Russia along with his presentation. Dagestanis do not have to perish in Russia's terrible and disgraceful war, stated Zelenskyy. Neither do Chechens, Ingush, Setians, Circassians, or other people that fall under the Russian flag. There are 200 distinctive ethnic minorities in Russia, and none of them must submit to the Russian pressure. The head of the state of Ukraine counseled people living for the autonomous republics under Russian authority to fight solely for freedom in their own nations. Guys, if you're enjoying the video so far, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and do give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoy it. Turn on the bell icon to receive notifications about upcoming videos, share this video if you find it helpful, and with that all said, we'll get back to the video. The most significant minority groups and independent republics that will form a front against Russia are listed here, with the Chechens coming in. Buryats and Pakistanis are 2 more groups that have endured a great deal of oppression and persecution at the hands of Russia. This worry was signaled by the protests that had just erupted in Chechnya for the first time. Bells were ringing in Russia as it was revealed that Chechen separatists had gathered anti-Russian individuals in Chechnya to engage in combat. Additionally, thousands of Borders and Dagestanis perished in Ukraine after being forcibly sent to Russia's Ukraine operation. Putin can now hear the alarm bells quite clearly because Chechens and other minority groups have fought alongside Russia. Chechens, Dagestanis, and Buryats are currently opposing Putin's mobilization decision as well as the all other pro-war policies. The majority of minorities in Russia have refused to live under tyranny and have stoked the flame of freedom in their hearts for many years. However, it is quite normal for the minorities to believe that they had a chance after witnessing the Russian army's weakness during the Ukraine war. They also found a very good reason to protect against Putin, and the mobilization in Dagestan and Chechnya generated quite a stir, despite the fact that they had killed their own children in vain due to the mobilization order given by Russia. However, Russian President Vladimir Putin, who was adamant about achieving his goal, continued to support these independent republics by dispatching Russian security units there. The 300,000 volunteer Russian military operation outlined in the mobilization proclamation was carried out in Ukraine by a large contingent of people sent by Putin from these countries. The military requirements are being ignored by the Russian Guard regiments, which are still looking for volunteers, just as in Ukraine. In accordance with Putin's orders, the Russian Guard battalions that recruited soldiers to fight in Ukraine forced a large number of individuals to volunteer, regardless of their health or age. Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, is attempting to maintain calm in the autonomous republics by placing his own cronies in charge of the republics. Even so, Putin's problems are not lessened by the Russian army's failure. While President Vladimir Putin is unlikely to move quickly, the Russian military defeat will inevitably result in political upheaval in Moscow. Inevitably, this will have an impact on the circumstances in Belarus. According to a recent article by Pavel Kebaev, a specialist in European foreign policy, it has also contributed to the political waning of Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko and the loosening of his sense of authority, both of which he had strongly adhered to. Up to this point, Mr. Lukashenko has been able to withstand demands to actively take part in the invasion of Ukraine. However, the country has gotten worse as a result of the Russian power group's February onslaught from the territory of Belarus against Kiev. In addition, the suppression of large-scale protests in the summer of 2020 resulted in a declining domestic support base for the opposition to the Lukashenko dictatorship. Whether they're in prison or being exiled, the leaders are well coordinated and united, mostly under the direction of Ms. Svetlana Tikhanovskaya. There are indications that Mr. Putin's concerns about a new uprising are being addressed. He won't be able to save Mr. Lukashenko as he has in the past, given his failing in Ukraine campaign. According to observers, the Belarusian army and riot police are no longer able to carry out dictatorial instructions since their resources have been depleted. But right now, it is largely dependent on Mr. Putin's goodwill. The main difference between the opposition civil society marches currently scheduled in Belarus and the large-scale rallies in 2020 is that there was essentially no enmity against Russia 2 years ago. However, the Ukrainian war dramatically altered the mindset of the Belarusians. To suggest that the Lukashenko dictatorship was flawed is not an exaggeration. The extensive area, which was troubled by armed strife during the 1990s until it was periodically pacified by projections of Russian strength, will be affected by Ukraine's streak of military victories as well. Moscow's peacekeeping mission in the Azerbaijan-Armenia conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh and the backing of Hush leader Ramazan Kadyrov in Chechnya led to the war in Georgia in 2008. The Ukrainians' demolishing of Russian military might and the conflict entrepreneurs' recognition of this weakness portend instability. It does not seem conceivable for Putin to escape the spiral during this course of the Ukraine war. Vladimir Putin won't be successful in stopping this chaos or, eventually, these reactions. And that is all for today. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. If you've liked this video, then please give us a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to receive notifications. Refer to other videos on our channel for more content, but until then, goodbye.